changed, totally, told me to hold tight to that.
Sure, because that's just, we have to go, well, to purchase a house, and also like,
I would go home.
so I've been asking him. Okay.
And he said 2 weeks told me I would be moved to you guys, so I just moved over it.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing, is that you buy housing and statute, that's a different situation for a house.
So you should have.
Purchasing a property or doing development.
Okay,
And then
thanks for
Thanks for Right, no. Even. Well, they would be sad for
She wanted to pay
Yeah.
before.
Which is.
Oh, okay.
Hello, how are you? Good, how are you? I'm good. That's too sad.
Yeah, we're doing presentation for.
So part of the working better together, like, you don't go for your
There you go, Cody.
Courtney and I are, and others, I'm working, we're on a housing insecurity. Housing insecurity. We see the staff on. Twice.
At least not 4 times.
Yeah, at least not 4 times, but poor Courtney ends up paying holiday for her at the county, but bless her soul.
Cody, I feel like we've been missing that for a couple months, and we thought you took it home with you to. Now that I think about it, I was like, we were talking about the Cody take it home.
It's obviously Cody.
That's what I told him when we couldn't find it. Everybody knows Cody. I believe so. I thought we were gonna have most,
Yeah. The last
everybody.
one I got had mass on
And
it.
it's really nice, huh? How come that there was still that? Okay. That's not my district, sorry.
I don't remember. I'd have to look. All right, so now we have quorum. Yay! It's okay. It happens. So I am going to, give me the gavel, call the meeting to order at 5:22. And first thing on our agenda is an introduction of a new member, and Commissioner Schwartz, was not able to make it tonight, so hopefully we will be able to introduce him next month. So we're gonna start with roll call of commissioners. So, let's see here, looking at my attendance list. Commissioner Poser?
Here.
Commissioner Lash? Here. Commissioner Philpsack?
Here.
Commissioner Buchner? Here. Councilmember Schoen? Here. I don't know why that's so hard for me in my brain. I know. Commissioner Stokes? Commissioner Schwartz is absent. Commissioner Hansen is absent, and Commissioner Thrun is here. And just a quick update, since the last meeting, we did have Commissioner Metoxen resign, so she's not on the roll call. So just an update for commissioners. So first thing we have is approval of the meeting minutes from November 12th. So I am looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion. Second?
Second.
Second. All right. Is there any discussion or corrections to the minutes? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is good. All right, we are moving into our open public comment period. Before we get into that, I'm going to read the little statement I need to read. I haven't done that yet. So, welcome to the January session of the Housing Opportunities Commission. We attempt to conduct our meeting in a relatively informal manner within the constraint that we must deal with the issues before us in an orderly and businesslike fashion. We do request that everyone restrict their comments to the issues before us, avoid unnecessary repetition, and be prudent in the use of time, because we want to be sure we have adequate time to review and discuss all of the items with equal diligence. I will say, after our last work plan, we have a lot of things on our agenda, so each month we will, so we'll try to keep moving the meetings forward quickly as well. For everybody in the room, please be sure to turn your phones off or to silent. And if you are coming up for public comment, please introduce yourself, include your name and your address as well when you come up to speak. So with that, I'm going to ask if there's anybody here for open public comment. Nobody. We had an audience though today. All right. So with that, I'll close open public comment and move into our public discussion. The first item on the agenda is, what is a comprehensive plan? Who is presenting that? I will. Okay. So for commissioners, just a reminder that this was one of the first things on our work plan we wanted to learn more about. So we're starting to, even though we're going to approve the work plan in a little bit, this is kind of one of the first big educational pieces we wanted to work on for 26.
And the comprehensive plan update will be starting this year. It'll probably be 12 to 18 month process. It's, kind of like the zoning code. So it'll be starting this year, but it'll probably be next year before it's into an approval period. And you guys did say you want to be a part of it. So it makes sense that we do a little piece on it before it gets to that point. Comprehensive plans are required by law. They have certain requirements in them. So we have to do this every so often. We do updates every so often. Typically, they would be 20-year plans. I think there was probably a period of time where that worked, but it feels like things are changing so rapidly that you still want to plan out 20 years, but I think you need to do checks along the way to make sure things are still headed the right way, because things are changing so quick. So the last one was in 2015. They were working on an update right when I started, so 2020, 2021. So now will be a complete redo. It'll probably still have some of the same elements from the last one. If it's working, don't, necessarily fix it, but update it to be more relevant to times now. And with that, amendments that were made recently with the zoning code update are listed here. And then I was going to print the housing one out or send it to you, but the analysis of conditions and issues report, the links were broke. They should be fixed now if you guys want to go in and look at all that information from the last one. So again, current plan out there. So what is it exactly? State law defines it as a guide to the physical, social, and economic development of a local government. Pretty broad, pretty vague. It does guide future development for at least 20 years. Like I said, we do update ours regularly, review it. It contains objective goals and policies, and the plan's not regulation, but regulation, like our current zoning, they do need to be consistent. Other plans, the parks plan, they all should roll up to and be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So comprehensive plan's going to be high level, and then some of those other plans start filling in more details underneath it. One of the main processes of this, and it was done with the zoning code update, is the planning of where future development and stuff's gonna go. So a lot of that's been kind of looked at and stuff, but we'll get the map all updated, look at future growth, things like that, and kind of plan for what type of zoning and what type of housing, businesses, different things you want in different areas. When you look at these maps, if you're a planner, you're going to instantly recognize the colors, but they should be very similar, if not the exact same colors across the country. Yellows, residential, red's commercial, purple tends to be industrial. They have it as downtown. What do they have? Industrial, they have more as the white, bluish, so like up here and stuff. So pretty consistent. You see most of Eau Claire is zoned for residential with some industrial districts and then some business areas. And feel free to stop me if there's questions along the way. So as I said, the other plans start filling in more details of it. So ideally, any plan that's done by the city will be consistent with the comprehensive plan. The zoning code update did come before the comprehensive plan update. Often those are all done at once, but they were both such big projects. That's why they were tackled separately. So we did have a lot of conversation from people about the zoning code not working with the comprehensive plan totally. So that's what some of those amendments were for, to kind of correct some of those and to move in and start, that process of making everything consistent again. So when we start working on other plans, they should start with the comprehensive plan and look at the goals and stuff in there and kind of break down from that. Again, it does include areas outside of the city for future planning. If you've got to keep growing as a city, especially in Wisconsin, and we're always going to need more housing and more development. You can't always infill, so there's always going to be a need for growth, and we do have some agreements with neighbors and stuff where we co-manage that. It's probably. But where we recognize that we're going to be growing and we want to respect some of their boundaries and stuff too. And that's the extra territorial plat review and things like that. So how's the plan made? put up there. It takes 18 to 24 months, so it will be a long process. If it does the full 24, it could be 2027 before council's reviewing it. So the budget's already been secured. They'll be releasing an RFP this spring, early summer. Once that's out, they'll also be working on a public participation plan. They did the same for the zoning code, and they do get approval for that. They make sure that council knows what the path is, what the participation looks like. So it does follow a very specific process and plan. So the first step is assessment and issues. So there'll be a lot of data collecting and review, recognizing what are the issues currently and what's anticipated over the next 20 years. You know, things like how much is the population anticipated to grow? Are we going to see concerns with our ability to, grow? Do we need more park space? Do we, just identifying different issues that might be out there. Then the plan starts being developed from those issues and assessment. And then once all that work's done, it will go to Plan Commission and then for review and then council for approval. There are many public hearings along the way. There definitely are some with council and Plan Commission, but there'll be a lot of other things. So typically, what they've done in the past or more recently with the zoning code update, they'll have a steering committee, advisory committee, then they'll have many different focus groups and stakeholder meetings. So all of Hawk might not be on the steering committee or advisory committee. Some members might be, but they will come and have specific meetings with you guys and conversations, especially around the housing part. But always remember other parts of it can impact housing also. They'll do, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I just have a quick question on that. And I think on the prior slide is maybe the answer to the question. If council really felt it was, maybe it's not this slide.
It probably went
Thought it
backwards.
was really pertinent to have like a Hawk voice in some type of an advisory committee, or to include Hawk, build in steps in the process where Hawk is included, like the full commission. Would that happen during the RFP process and kind of establishing that contract with whatever consultant might get hired?
It would probably be more in the public participation plan. If there are thoughts and ideas that you guys have, they're probably starting to create some of this stuff now. So if you do have feedback and stuff you want me to share, more than happy to share it, or talk with Ned Noel. He'll be the one leading the plan, our planning manager. So if there are some thoughts and stuff about that, either me or him would be, or Aaron, of course, would be the, yep. Typical participation plans, then the focus group, stakeholder meetings, interviews, so those could be larger groups, smaller groups, one-on-ones, all of those take place during that. Presentations for interest groups, there's typically neighborhood associations that will reach out and want individual presentations. There are some community members might ask for them to go speak to their group. Maybe the chamber wants an eggs and issues thing on it, or just any group that asks, as long as it's manageable and everything. Typically, we will go out and do presentations to help make sure we're getting plenty of participation and sharing as much as we can with the community. There's also a survey. Not everybody can come to meetings. Not everybody enjoys coming to meetings. We seem to have a following now, so I'm kind of excited. But we do want to make sure we're getting everybody's opinion and using the technology we have to be able to do that. Then there's forums, open houses. I don't know if any of you guys went to the open houses for the zoning. But usually it's, boards put up, people can walk around and review them as they want. There's people throughout to help answer questions and stuff. They did the little build your block or build your community workshop. I think a lot of people enjoyed seeing how that all works with that. So they'll do different things like that. Pop-up events, going to like Fall Festival or things like that where, those are good places to generate community input. There's newspaper, TV, radio, a lot of times doing interviews, putting information out there, seeking input from other boards, committees, and commissions. And then the Plan Commission is city council. They are the ones who have the official public hearings before it is adopted. What Wisconsin law requires, so if you look at the one now, you'll see all those selection on there, issues and opportunities, housing, transportation, public utilities and facilities, natural resources, historic and cultural, economic development, intergovernment, cooperation, land use, and implementation. So those are the ones that are required. We also typically include our parks, downtown, neighborhoods, urban design, historic preservation, health, and sustainability. And they may reference some of the other plans that have already been created that we're not going to go and recreate all those plans. They're still relevant. They'll be updated when needed. So the comprehensive plan, it'll direct zoning. Again, it seems a little backwards that we did the zoning update first, but we really kind of needed to determine what we wanted to do with that to inform the comprehensive plan. But going forward, if there are zoning changes, somebody comes with a request, it always refers back to the comprehensive plan and, what did everybody decide they want to see for growth? Doesn't mean things can't happen, but it is the overarching document that guides development through the city with zoning. Subdivision, official mapping, we try to start looking at future roads, highways, things like that, where we think there's potential development. That can always change. I've watched roads change multiple times through the development process, but kind of having an idea that, well, we're going to need a primary road through this area if it's going to develop out to this capacity that we want. It helps drive capital improvement programming, and then there's other stuff that it refers back to, but the comprehensive plan directs a lot of the work we do in the city. Little history, first one we had was in 1923. It had, was the first zoning code, had 5 districts. I don't know how many we ended up with this last time, less than before, but I don't know that we'll ever be back to 5. It's probably residential, commercial, industrial, public, residential, commercial, industrial, public. I don't know which one I'm missing. But it was probably the 5 basics. Apparently there's only 4, I don't remember the other. Zoning was updated in 52, so almost 30 years later, and that moved into 11 districts, so more than doubled. Zoning came first. We didn't do a comp plan until the year later, so we're kind of following that same path. 68, there was a 701 HUD comp plan done. 82 comp plan bundle of plans. I'm guessing they went back and looked at all the different plans they had and started lining those up with the comp plan. 90s, another zoning code update. 93, the comp plan was updated. 2005, a comp plan. 2015, a comp plan, and then the Century Code most recently. So last few comp plan updates have been about 10 years. And that kind of feels right. Again, it's not going to drastically change because your long-term views are probably going to be very similar, but you do want to review them to make sure they're keeping up with the times. Recent zoning, so I think we've talked about, Ned talked about this quite a bit in different meetings. The past zoning didn't align very well with the last couple of comprehensive plans. So we ended up with a lot of conditional use permits and stuff like that, and that can be very difficult to manage. And also the sustainable compact development goal, the zoning didn't really match that goal that was in the comp plans. We tried to correct that. And we allowed smaller lot sizes, reducing setbacks, different things like that to try and correct that compact design. And the land development ordinance that was recently done will strengthen local environment with surface water buffers, erosion control, different things like that. So there's a lot that filters up into this. I know you guys are going to be primarily concerned with housing, but it does guide a lot. We do have a legacy of strong plans. Eau Claire has some of the best plans I've seen. They are very comprehensive. They are high level, but they do set very comprehensive goals and directions on where they want to go. Compact development growth strategy has been in there for 30 plus years. I don't know that we've necessarily accomplished that, but the new zoning should help with that, and that is a continued focus. It has helped with capital decision-making improvements with roads, utilities, parks, different stuff like that. And there's always quite a bit of public involvement. We're always going to hear people say they didn't know, they weren't a part of it. But I would say this planning team does some really great outreach and a lot to try and hit individuals in different places. It's, for anybody who's done public processes and stuff, it can be impossible to reach everybody, but they do really great trying to make sure they do. Growth management strategy, this is a critical concern for Eau Claire, is how do we make sure that our growth both outward or suburban, taking newer undeveloped land, and our urban infill growth is compact, cost efficient, sustainable, and designed for lasting value. So I think that's going to fit a lot of the goals that you guys have. Compact helps affordability, being cost efficient will help affordability, sustainable helps for cost to the person in there. If their utilities don't cost as much, it helps in their overall affordability. So that's really a strong focus of it, and I think you guys will align well with that. So identified and ongoing issues, so forecasting growth and land supply, it could be tough. COVID changed everything, so you have to make adjustments at different times when you're forecasting that growth and stuff. So we saw population booms during and after COVID, those continue. So forecasting for that continued growth. Smart land uses, and this is something we might discuss at some point if you guys are interested, how the tax base relates to the cost of services. Obviously, if you have 20 people living on one parcel in different units, you're going to collect more to take care of like the road in front of them, stuff like that. If you have one every 5 acres, there's not as many people paying along that way, so services tend to decline. You travel out in the country, get more paved roads versus concrete. You don't have curbs, you don't have sewer systems, stuff like that. So compact design helps with a lot of that stuff and being able to pay for it. We've touched on some of this. The future land use map will be updated. Making sure we have an adequate sewer service area. I don't know how many of you know what that is, but it's an area where outside of the city of Eau Claire, people have septic.
So this is an area defined as where sewer systems and stuff are okay to grow, to try and combat some of the septic stuff. And if people want that type of service, they would typically annex into the city to be provided those services. It improves transportation planning. Part of it will enhance district corridors, nodes, so it does identify some of those smaller areas or specific areas that might need some more direct plans, neighborhoods, stuff like that. It helps with older neighborhood stabilization, trying to work with aging buildings and infrastructure to keep that density and stuff. There is stuff in the current one about affordable and diverse housing options, choices for all, and then economic development and incentives. So the current housing element, you guys are probably going to look at this and say that's not much. But again, it does define the overarching goals, and then we build down from that. So the first one is housing affordability, using regulations and assistance programs to help make housing affordable for all. So some of the things we've done recently, the zoning code update, was it 4 or 5 years ago when you guys started up doing the affordable housing plan, different things that the Housing Division Authority does, and looking to our levels of government above us and advocating for housing affordability. The second objective is housing rehabilitation, maintenance, and infill development, and continuing to find ways to support that, encourage it. I think we all know that for the most part, remodeling is going to be cheaper than a tear down and build. But making sure it's also safe and healthy and stuff like that. So we do want to find ways that we can support and maintain what we have. And then diversity, trying to make sure we have housing types for everybody and price levels for everybody. A lot of that's driven by market, but we can also use policy and stuff to help drive some of that.
So this is what's in our current plan?
Yes.
So could we potentially get a summary of how all of these objectives have been met, like what the data is and what the plan has been? It doesn't have to be an oral presentation, but.
Yeah, that will most likely be a part of the analyzing data and issues and looking at here's what we did with the last plan, here's where we still need to focus and update, and I would expect that to come in that part, but I'll check in with Ned and see if it's going to dive that deep down, but I would expect it to. If you don't look at what you've done, it's hard to move forward.
Thank you.
Great question, thank you. And then the fourth one, multiple family housing design. We need housing for everybody. We want multifamily to look nice, fit in with the neighborhoods, not necessarily stand out. And we want to make sure we have all the alternatives people need. Not everybody wants to be a homeowner. Not everybody, wants all the chores and maintenance and stuff. And they are different cost points too. So those are the 4 main objectives. The next steps, again, they're going to do the RFP probably spring, early summer, finalize the public participation plan, select a consultant, and then start the data collection and land use auditing to see where the land use is compared to where the future plan was last time, and is it in the best place it should be, or should we start altering some of that land use? Yep. Oh, and then the last thing, launch the project to the community. It's anticipated in the spring that they start putting it out to the community, but it looks like we're doing that tonight by talking about it.
Just wonder who decides on the consultant, who selects the consultant?
It is typically staff. They'll usually have multiple people review the RFPs. depending on different things and how they're done, sometimes, I know we did some bid ones where we didn't even look at the cost or anything. We just looked at how it met, scored it on that, and then they went back in and filled out the budget that they proposed and scored that. But they pretty much go through the RFP and here's what we asked for, here's what they said they'll do. Is it adequate? Does it fulfill it? Does it partially? Does it not at all? And then they score them. If the couple comes pretty close, typically they're going to choose the one that met the RFP the best and makes sense cost-wise. If there's a couple that's close, then they might start diving a little deeper, maybe do some interviews, go back and ask questions. We've done that before, had people clarify some stuff. Generally, you'll see the same questions asked to make sure everybody's able to share the same information. So if questions asked for one, usually it's put out there. Or if somebody asks us a question, we'll put it out there with the answer so everybody has the same information. Probably a little more than you.
Such an important part of it. The consultant drives most of that part of it. Not that we've seen enough of these comp plans in all the communities. And I've seen some really bad consultants that were selected. And usually they're from Chicago. The consultants that, to be honest, the consultants that did I was not impressed with the consultants that were hired for the zoning. You know, because they were Altoona too, right?
Mhm.
So it's early on in the thing, and the stuff that they came back with was just ridiculous. I think that's such an important part. I hope a local company can get some weight in that decision. I think that's important.
Like having community representatives as a part of the selection committee.
That may be a good option.
That
Or
could be
did I
good,
just-
or are there local companies? I don't.
West
know,
Central Regional,
consultants,
West Central Regional Planning.
Yeah, I
does.
don't know how many like planning consulting firms would be very local. We do tend to look, at that stuff because do we want somebody who's just done all comprehensive plans for Florida, who may not have any clue what the Midwest, upper Midwest, is like? It may not be the best fit. So stuff like that is considered in the overall process. Looking at past plans that they've done, typically they're going to post their best ones on their websites, but going through and looking at those and seeing if, their final product matches what you've wanted and, what you're looking for. So, I don't know if a comp plan's something West Central, especially for Eau Claire, as big as it is, it'd be a lot of work. I don't know if they'd bid on it. They would be great because they know a lot of the planning stuff for the immediate area and stuff, but it's a matter of who applies for the RFP and then selected.
All right. Councilmember Schoen?
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to ask like a clarifying question for mostly I think the benefit of the commissioners here to make sure we're all on the same page about the purpose of the comp plan and how we should be thinking about housing as it relates to the comp plan. I know you've touched on that a couple times, Billy, but could you just kind of phrase concisely, like, should we think about this as a vision board, and if, the past strategies that we had been following for the last 10 years as it relates to housing need to change? Like, is this the plan that commissioners should be putting those new ways of thinking or new strategies into the plan? Is this something different? I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think, keep it in mind their overarching goals. When you look at the current goals, are these the goals we want? Do we need to add some more goals and objectives? Is this one just not working and we just need to throw it out and find a different way to accomplish that, but in a high level? So, but I would also encourage you guys to look at other parts of it. We touched a little, and I'll talk more about it later, last night on the hidden cost of housing, transportation, utilities, different things like that. And if there are pieces in those that might be important to affordability as a whole, which definitely impacts housing attainability. So that, I don't know if that helps. Okay.
And you probably said this and I just missed it, but, oh, sorry, Laura. I
All right,
interrupted you.
Commissioner Lash?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation, Billy. I have 3 questions. One is, for the RFP release, does that just mean that it's published, or is there a strategy of getting it out to particular areas or folks?
Yeah, typically what happens, and this can vary depending on RFPs. If it's a more local one, a lot of times we'll send it directly. Well, we use a system, but we'll put contacts in there to send it directly to try and encourage the most responses we can get. Something like this, it'll probably be put out there. Working at a consultant firm previously, consultants are out there crawling the internet looking at different places for these, so it'll post out publicly, and anybody really across the country would have access to it and be able to apply.
I think akin to what Cody was saying, what I get excited about here is when there's like a similar municipality that someone has reformed. So, you know, even if the outfit is out of Chicago, but they worked on Bend, Oregon or something, I like when the project looks similar to the makeup of where we are. I'm also kind of coastal, but anyways. And then the second line on that green slide was the public, finalize the public participation plan, and who is doing that and how?
So staff will prepare it, and then they'll review it with management to make sure it's online, and I believe they do review it with council also to make sure it's within what they're expecting and looking for and wanting. I don't know if it goes to Plan Commission at that level.
Okay, I don't want to start a riot, but it would be pretty amazing if someone was consulting on that, because having that done in a finessed and strategic way would be amazing. And then my third question is, if, over the work of the comp plan, which takes 18 to 24 months, or when it's finalized, can that change or affect what's in the Century Code, or no?
It could. So we're working on it for 2 years. If, you know, with the Century Code being implemented, if we're like, wow, this just isn't working, we need to change it. They can go ahead and change it, but they can also work into the comp plan being like, hey, we recognize this from the Century Code. So it could have some influences on it, and it could result some changes.
So do the changes, and this is my teaching moment, so I apologize, I mean learning moment. So does that mean the changes reside in the comp plan and then we live by that, or the comp plan says you gotta go to the Century Code and amend things?
Depends on what it is. If you're changing zoning, it would have to be, so if the comp plan's like, we want to see commercial development through here, but in the zoning code, we thought housing would work better, the zoning code would have to be updated to reflect the comprehensive plan, and so that they match better. They haven't matched greatly, and that's what they should do, work together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Stokes?
Yeah, that's kind of my question. What does the comp plan, like, what is our current comp plan influence? Like, what does it drive?
Everything. It seems very high arching, but it is the like top plan, and then the other ones start feeding into it, and everything we should go back to that comp plan as some way. So if you look at our REAP plan, the sustainability, the elements under sustainability stuff in the comp plan, those should all be there, and then they take the objectives and here's how we're going to reach those objectives. So the comp plan kind of defines the objectives, and then other plans come in and fill in how we do it.
And from a housing standpoint too, for future development, what is defined in there? They define future land use maps, right? She went through that a little bit. So the future land use, is this area designated as residential? If a developer is looking at, like, if somebody's trying to sell a piece of property, or you have a older home, like maybe it's an older duplex that needs to be torn down, that land use will determine what could be built there. So before a developer would even come forward with a project or look at it, they typically take a look at that comprehensive plan to know, because if it doesn't meet that, typically you can't approve it. They would have to change the comprehensive plan in order to approve that, because they can't approve a project that doesn't meet the comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Yep, and that's a great point to make. So we'll have that happen, where we'll see where people want to develop stuff, but it doesn't meet the comp plan, and there will be amendment. But this is supposed to look at all that for the future, and you don't want to be amending these all the time. You want to try and set it out, but there are times that it will need to happen. But that's why it takes, up to 2 years, because you really want to make it something that's not changing all the time.
And then it gets revisited every year and the objectives get measured and all of that happens?
Typically every 5 years, but if things do come up along the way, they are addressed as possible. But there's typically a very comprehensive update in 5 years to look back. Here's the objectives that we set. Here's some of our goals. Are we meeting them? Do we need a different plan under this to help meet them? Do we need some different strategies? So it's typically a 5-year, very, not as comprehensive, but still comprehensive update.
All right, Commissioner Poser?
I'm curious how much it costs for the consultant.
I couldn't tell you how much was budgeted off the top of my head. I can get that back to you. It's a significant amount. It's 2 years of work with multiple employees from the consultant, so it is a significant amount.
And this is a little bit broader too, but Eau Claire County is also starting the same process right now too. So just a heads up on that. They're working on farmland preservation right now, but that's the start of their comprehensive plan review. So, all right, any other questions on the comprehensive plan before we move on to our next item on the agenda? I think we're good. Thank you, Billy. I think that was very helpful. So as we come in, obviously we got a little bit of time now before they're going to start the comprehensive plan process, but we will stay on top of that. I know I'll be on top of that, and we'll make sure the commission will be advocating for commission involvement in that process. So next item is the work plan. So this, an amended one was sent out with your packet. There's an amended work plan that had a few tweaks on it. Most of it was just minor wording things that came forward, and then we took out like specific time frames on Objective 2 Strategy 1. So Billy's putting that up on the screen right now. This is what we worked on last time and finalized. So the objectives are not changing. Those were the same objectives that we started the work plan with. The first objective, to recommend and review ordinances and other policies to ensure availability of affordable housing. This is where the comp plan piece come in. Strategy 1 is to be involved in the update and be included in the discussion. Very first thing we wanted to do was get some education on what that was. So we're actually starting to work on this even though we haven't actually approved it yet because we're in 26. So Strategy 2 was stay connected on the impact of the new zoning code, be looking at that later in the year after some time has gone by, and the impact on affordable housing, and advocate on zoning issues that negatively impact affordability. I'm starting to hear a little bit more about some of the zoning code impact, and I think we'll hear more as the year goes on. And Strategy 3 was to advocate for the Housing Opportunities Commission to play a bigger role with the City Council in affordable housing discussions. And then future items that we wanted to keep on our radar was to review and make recommendations to council on use of affordable housing funding if funding's allocated in the capital improvement plan, and then create affordable housing goals to include with our work plan in 27. Is there any other thoughts or comments on these before we move on? Because I'd like to kind of work through this fairly quickly, approve it, and then we can keep moving. So, but is there any additional final thoughts on Objective 1 before we finalize this?
I just have a
Yes,
question.
yep.
So I got the first one, I printed it off, and then I saw that we had an updated one, so I went back through to see what language changed. And I'm curious about the change in items for the future bullet 1, because originally it said recommendation to City Council on affordable housing priorities, and then the changes on the use of affordable housing funding if funding is allocated. And I'm curious, because those are two very different things. Affordable housing priorities, regardless of whether funding is earmarked, is different than only if funding is earmarked.
So in reviewing that, the city manager and council sets and creates the budget. City manager creates it with management team, takes it to council. They either make changes or approve it. So your guys's, I mean, you guys can always say we need more money for affordable housing, but you guys don't drive the budget process. But you guys absolutely do play a role in how that money is allocated to make recommendations. That's why that was updated.
And I think I'd push back and say that giving feedback on housing priorities leads to funding, right? We don't just ask for funding if we don't actually have a priority. And so right now, city council has a priority around affordable housing. But what if that changes? What if that shifts? If this is a future item, why wouldn't we say that this committee or commission's role sure is on the use of affordable housing, but it should also be about keeping affordable housing as a forefront topic as we move forward. So I guess I just don't see those two things as being the same. Priorities versus funding are not necessarily the same thing.
So your work plan sets the priorities and council approves that. So I think that's done in this document. So when council approves it, they're saying, yes, this is the work we want to see you guys doing. So they are saying, if they approve this, that affordable housing is a priority, if that makes sense. But the way it read before was more about designating the amount of money and stuff, and that's not a part of the process.
So I didn't read it that way, because it
Okay.
really just said, review and make recommendations to city council on affordable housing priorities in the capital improvement plan.
So the capital improvement plan is just allocating money for different things. So it doesn't necessarily list out priorities, things like that. If there is stuff, feedback that you guys want to go, like we need to be able to fund X, Y, and Z, we can give that feedback in the budget process. But you guys aren't necessarily in the budget process, if that makes sense.
Kind of, but I think I would go even further then and say, okay, so affordable housing priorities isn't part of the capital improvement plan, but why wouldn't that read, review and make recommendations to city council on affordable housing and the use of affordable housing funding, regardless of whether it's allocated? Shouldn't this commission be pushing for that? I mean, I swear we wrote letters about it, advocating for more money.
Can you restate that?
Sure. Review and make recommendations to city council on affordable housing and the use of affordable housing funding. And take out the if funding is allocated. Because
Well,
you're
we-
right, if funding is allocated is a city council decision, but the recommendations to city council should be this commission's decision.
Couldn't you live with that edit?
We'll check and see if that change is going to work. I don't have an issue with it. It makes sense to me, but.
Because it would broaden then, and this objective is broad. So the objective is just review and recommend ordinances and policies, and then it's not, because funding is really an objective too. So this gets more into a broader look at just, we're making recommendations to council on anything related to affordable housing, which comes in later too, and then the use of affordable housing funding is just another piece of it.
I think the capital improvement plan's not policy, so,
And that would be removed now from it. That language is removed. I typed up what she's got. So review and make recommendations to city council on affordable housing and the use of affordable housing funding.
Yeah.
So it's not tied to the capital improvement plan anymore.
perfect.
Do you think that'll go through, Billy?
Yep.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that change in that bullet point?
I was just gonna say, thanks, Carrie, that's a good point.
Thanks, Carrie, that's good.
Okay. Any other thoughts on objective 1? I have that typed up too here, so on that Word document.
Okay.
I don't
thank you.
have the other edits on here, so I will just email you any other tweaks like that. I'll just email you the exact wording, so you can
Alright.
put it in the other version.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, so let me flip back to the other one. So objective 2 then is facilitating access to programs and funding for groups that contribute to Eau Claire's affordable housing, and especially to reduce costs for those who face the greatest need. So this is more the funding piece. So the strategy one was to promote, review, and award the housing fund grants available, and we identified that in 3 steps: promote with community outreach, receive and review proposals, housing funds are awarded. Strategy 2 is to learn more about the city budget, the city's priorities related to affordable housing, and the money available for affordable housing and how it's distributed. So more of an education piece so we can do better as HAWC. Strategy 3 is to explore the opportunity for NIDS and other funding mechanisms, including new legislation and program review. There was a language tweak on that one, I remember, but I think it was minor, if I remember correctly.
It was the adding of everything after you said and.
Yeah, it was adding the stuff after NIDS.
Okay.
To make sure, that stuff is a part of the work plan, because it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be big this year.
Okay. And there is I did see that there is a proposed bill related to NIDS right now at state. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember there's something about that, so. And then strategy 4 is recommend advocating on housing-related legislation to city council and city management, and then for futures, research and grant opportunities. Is there any other thoughts or comments on objective 2 in the strategies?
It's not a thought, but did all of our work that we did related to the rubric and all of that, did that ever go to city council and get passed?
That's what this, you're talking about the funding
All the
rubric?
fall work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the rubric, we decided we would take it with this, so they could be reviewed together by council.
okay.
Because they kind of will work
Sorry, I didn't
a
know that.
little. And I don't know that we shared that, so I apologize.
Okay, good question. I had the same question, so good question. Yep. Any other comments or questions on this one? Okay. Moving on to objective 3, promoting public-private partnerships that stimulates the development and revitalization of local housing units, expands diversity of housing types, and improves housing affordability. So we're going to be doing some education on different housing programs that are available. And then strategy 2 is to provide education to local developers on available housing programs, how they can help them, why they should consider them, how they work and take advantage of them, et cetera. So doing some further education for developers on opportunities for that. Thoughts, comments on objective 3?
I feel very excited about the inclusion of strategy 2. Thank you.
All right, moving right along to objective 4, reviews civic strategies that increase home ownership opportunities. Strategy 1 is collect data on home ownership to understand potential strategies that can promote home ownership. Strategy 2, using the data collected, start to create a housing plan to grow home ownership. That'll stretch into 27, and then future years is researching different types of models of home ownership. Thoughts, comments, questions on objective 4 and its strategies? Yes, Commissioner Lash?
When it says items for future years and it says models of home ownership including co-op, do we also want to say community land trust, or do we want to say neither co-op or community land trust and just leave it at research different types of models of home ownership?
We could, I think we said including co-op because that was one of the comments or items that ended up on the charts when we were doing our brainstorming session. But I think it covered if we don't include that, if we just we end it after models of home ownership.
It's not a hill I want to die on, but I'd be curious to hear what other people want to say.
I think if we're going to have including, we need to have more than one.
What if we just do like we do in strategy 2 above and do the bracket and go IE, co-ops, land trusts, whatever else you come up with, end bracket.
It's a good hill though, Laura.
Does it have to be IE or can it be EG? I'm just kidding.
I was just going for consistency in strategy 2. That's all I was saying.
All right, so I have IE or EG, whichever you want to use, for consistency in the document, whatever is used in other places. Co-op, land trusts, was there anything else we specifically wanted to list?
I'll throw some in there.
Okay.
We had a bunch on the slide from last.
Yeah,
night.
we had other things listed,
I
so,
won't put 20, but I'll put 5 or so in there.
okay,
And et cetera.
perfect. Any other thoughts or comments on objective 4?
This is this is irrelevant, just tell me, but I'm thinking about what we just reviewed with the comprehensive plan, and they talked about fixing up homes. I can't remember what it's called, but, yeah, thanks. But does that, I mean, like, not just increasing home ownership, but keeping the home you're in, like, is that as equally important here as costs continue to go up and things? I don't.
Yeah,
The
you're
reason I
opening,
say that is
you're gonna open a
because
can of worms.
If you increase home ownership, but you have a whole bunch of people falling out of home ownership, you're not a net gain.
Maybe
You can
that's an
just-
item for a future year because it's not in the current work plan. So we could add that as another, like, to explore, we could explore,
Yeah, I actually think increasing and maintaining home ownership, like, maybe that would be a better, could we, would that a terrible idea to say increasing and maintaining? Because we want people to stay in their houses. We don't just want them to get a house.
well,
Right?
I would say, the objective is written based on the way that our charter is, or not the charter, the ordinance is written. So we can't change that language until we change the ordinance, which is the next item on the objectives. So do you want a future year item for that, or do you just want to sit with that right now until because that could be part of our discussion for 27, too. 'Cause keep in mind, we're on a one-year plan here, so we could also look at that for
I'll leave that
27.
up to the others.
And if you guys kind of want some input on it, I think increasing home ownership opportunities, to me, that would be also keeping people in their homes so that they don't lose home ownership opportunities. I think some of this stuff, depending on who's reading it, which path it can go, I can probably be a little wide on these because I know we need a lot of these different strategies, so.
So then, with that small loophole, I would put under strategy 2, at the end of it, before it says this will stretch into 2027, I would say start to create a housing plan to grow home ownership, including maintaining current homes.
Perfect. I like it.
Thanks, Carrie.
Again, here all day.
Okay.
Angie, I'm glad you brought up that sensitivity, and also, I don't want to, this isn't sweeping it under the rug, but I'm being optimistic that in Objective 3, revitalization of local housing units, I would hope is some of that spending we talked about where there might be programs that people are improving the homes that they're in, and that cost is palatable. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments on number 4? So strategy 2 has been revised to add using the data collected start to create a housing plan to grow home ownership, including maintaining homes. And then items for future years, we've added, after research different types of models of home ownership, we're adding a list of suggested ones to look at under 4.
I think it wasn't maintaining homes, it was maintaining home ownership.
Home ownership.
Or sustaining home ownership.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that what you said isn't a good idea, but that was my, thanks, Laura, that was my point.
I got you.
Because you could have a very well-maintained home and not be able to stay in it.
So maintaining or sustaining? Okay. All right. All right. Including sustaining home ownership. We good? Okay. And then objective 5, Billy, can you scroll the screen to objective 5? Thank you. So the last one, hold a regional meeting of industry and community stakeholders to share the commission's progress and direction. So we don't want to do this. So our strategies, because this doesn't seem to make sense for what we're doing. That's my very blunt way of saying we want to do something different. So we want to reevaluate the ordinance that created Hawk and determine recommended changes to council, including the elimination of the community stakeholder meeting. We're recommending changes that would include a report to council on the work of Hawk to share our progress and review all of the objectives assigned to Hawk and recommend changes to the scope of the commission, on the scope of the commission. One of the things that has come up to this, and I'm not going to recommend we add this as a bullet point, but looking at the makeup of the commissioners too, because it's looking at, do we have the right people? We're struggling a little bit with the student lived experience and maintaining that position. And so we can talk more about that when we get into that. But I think that's part of what we just, it's time to kind of relook at the whole structure of it and recommend changes that make sense for our commission. So, so that was strategy 1. Did you have something to add to that before I highlight 2 and 3?
So the thing you just said, is that part of this? The structure piece?
Yes. So like, so she's got under there, see, we've got, was I reading the old one?
Yeah, and that's why I jumped up. We did make a change. What you read was review all objectives assigned to the Housing Opportunities Commission and recommend any changes to the scope of the commission. We were concerned about every year the ordinance being opened up and changing, and that could make it difficult to guide work. This has been a commission for 5-6 years now. I think it does need some review to make sure it's on the right track. But we thought that guidance should be a conversation between you guys and council. So seeking, is this what you guys want us to continue doing? Here are some of our thoughts on what we feel would be important, but we want your guys' impact or your input after 5-6 years. We don't want to encourage it to be open constantly,
Okay.
because
Makes
then
sense. Yep.
all the work being done could be totally
Yep.
switched up the next year.
But we do need to look at some of the positions as well. We lost our most recent commissioner based on feedback, and one of the challenges I think with student lived experience is they have a great perspective, but the comments from her, and I think is similar, we've had a hard time keeping those individuals on, is that they're not really following some of the discussion and some of the knowledge and stuff. So they don't have the same backgrounds as some of the others on commission, and they feel a little lost. And I would say that would be why we've had a really hard time keeping that position filled. I mean, I don't remember how many people has been in it since I've been on commission, and I'm coming up on, I think, the end of my first term in 3 years, and I think we've had 4 people in that spot.
Yeah,
So that's
it's-
something to be revisited.
That one's turned almost every year, and we did broaden it. There were some people who read the ordinance as current student, living in student housing, and we're like, no, the ordinance says experience. We decided that a good point of reference would be in the last 10 years that they've lived in student housing. With the hope of it would be somebody who's not just here for a semester or a year, somebody who may stay a little bit longer, but would still been a struggle. I mean, there might be some of you on here, I don't know when you guys went to school, but that you guys could be like, hey, I can also be that student voice. So we don't necessarily, it doesn't have to be only that voice, but we need to have that voice by ordinance, and that's the only one defined by ordinance.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yes.
Sorry, that was my confusion, because what you were reading is not the
No,
note I meant,
yeah,
so
I
then
was
I got confused.
because
No,
I
no,
was
you're good.
I had my Word document up that I was making notes on those other ones, and then I forgot to flip back to the
No,
new
you're
one.
fine.
So I apologize. That was my mistake because I don't have this one in a Word document.
No
so.
worries. So what I was curious about in this second bullet point, and this is just from experience, whenever you start having meetings where quorum is a problem, which has been a huge problem for this group in the last 8 months, in a way that it hasn't the entire time I'd been on it before, feels like then there's a problem, right? With who we have, the commitment to it, the ability to do it, et cetera, whether it's onboarding, whether it's maintaining, whatever it is. So I think it's really important that we redo this, given all of this that we want to accomplish. You have to have people here, and you have to be able to make decisions. So I actually hope that that's something that we can do pretty quickly, is talk about have our conversation with council, or our recommendation to council about what we think this should be.
and I know how much everybody absolutely loves meetings. I wouldn't be opposed. I mean, I love meetings as more than anybody else. I wouldn't be opposed to a subcommittee on something like this, so there can be quick conversation that could possibly come back even next month or March. Because I agree, I don't know that the right people, but for the most part, it's whoever's in the database. So I think we need to be doing more outreach to get the type of voices that we want in there. And so that focus has kind of come back to. So.
All right, Councilmember Schoen?
I was just going to propose on the second bullet point under strategy 1 to add the language under seek guidance from council and codified objectives. I would add the language and structure of the Housing Opportunities Commission, just to make sure that that's very clear, that that's a priority for us.
So codified objectives and structure. Okay. All right, Commissioner Lash?
I know we're discussing just what's typed here, so I want to make a comment, but I hope it doesn't trigger folks to open up a whole discussion. If this is the codified objectives and structure of the Housing Opportunities Commission, I have had great concern recently about, I mean, it was just described how the student voice with lived experience isn't heard. And if they have trouble tracking with what's happening here, I think that is the fault of the composition. That voice should be here. And my presence here comes from a perspective not opposed to what you all do for work, but I'm coming from a lived experience perspective and someone who like hands-on works with individuals, housing them every day. And I have a growing sensitivity every month when I come to these meetings, and especially with the advertising that's being done right now for people to join the commission, that we are angling for housing projects and not discussing the mechanism of housing individuals and how that happens. And of course, I have pride in the work that I do, which involves mentorship of people, but I don't often experience, I don't often experience at this meeting that it is predominantly about getting people into housing. And I don't mean that as slight as it sounds, because I know we are all working on that in our own different levels. But if we're talking about the advertising that's going on right now for people to step up to the commission, I feel dismayed.
And I will say too, from my understanding from staff and coming on to this, that the intent is that commission is made up of people from all aspects of the development industry. So it's people that are service providers, that are working with the unhoused population, that are working with people that are, at the level of housing where they're needing some support and assistance, as well as a realtor and a developer, and the broader picture of all pieces. And we have been, Billy and I have had some conversations about who to ask, and we've actually reached out to one person, hopefully that will be interested. But we need a good broad perspective, and we're looking at like Cody is stepping down, right? Because his position's ending. We're trying to find somebody that has that background to kind of bring, or some sort of development background. So that's part of why we're advertising the way we are. Not that we don't want others to come in, but that's a piece of it, because that's a really important thing.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, I've had people come to me with the same concerns. What we're advertising that we want applications for are only 6 things, and there's a total of 11 commissioners. So I think Carrie brought up a good point that speaks to this. Is when this started, there was a lot of people invested. They were here. There were a lot of back and forth conversations, and there was some good stuff that came, and learning. And I think if we get those varied voices and roles back, that we will start seeing some of what we had. But by all means, it doesn't mean that that's going to be the entire commission. We want the other voices. It's got to have all voices, or there's just no real purpose to it, in my opinion.
Well, and Carrie, I appreciate what you said, because it was brought up last month about quorum and how we had no, not the way you said it, but we had like a convivial conversation, but it wasn't in quorum, and I'm sorry, this isn't as pugnacious as it sounds, but I get a babysitter every time. That's why I have my phone. They're like driving the kids to basketball and stuff. And that's the kind of daughter I am. But if that's, attendance obligation would be fine, because then people know what they're signing up for. Like, I just don't really think it's optional to be here. That's my creed. But like, as a commission, it would probably make us work a lot better if it was an attendance obligation. Then you know what you're biting off to chew, whatever. Yeah.
All right, any other conversation? So the other pieces to objective 5 that we didn't finish out was strategy 2 is to develop a digital method of communication to the public on the work of Hawk and partnering with Momentum West in the annual housing conference, which is tentatively slated for June 3rd in Menominee. I just found that out yesterday. So we may want to have a conversation with Steve on that one. I did not have a chance to talk to Steve about partner. It was a Zoom call. Him and I were both on Zoom, so I didn't have a chance. But those are the other 2 items under objective 5. Is there any other comments or thoughts on anything with objective 5? There was the word "and structure" added after objectives under the second bullet point. Is there anything else we want to bring up? Commissioner Stokes.
This is a can. I get, every time we see affordable housing, it just makes you want to go, because I feel like if we're going to use the term, we should define the term. But anyway, just my 2 cents.
It's not natural peanut butter, it's organic.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because then, well, we're going to build affordable housing. It's good for 80% of CMI. No, that's not affordable housing. Or, like, I don't know.
I agree that we need definitions that we're all working for, and so the public knows what we're talking about.
I think we defined it in the rubric.
Things in the rubric. I would love for it to get approved.
I think we did define what it was, or at least what our
I'm
intent was.
pretty sure it's not the first time this has come out of my
No.
mouth.
But I don't think we need to have that definition in our work plan per se, because the work
Right.
plan is just, these are the things we're working on to city council.
I think we have to have a collective agreement
Correct.
about what we mean when we say those words.
Correct.
And we have to, and city council needs to understand that, because we are going to make recommendations about affordable housing that might be very different than recommendations other groups make about affordable housing.
And
So-
I also think we
and I
need
think-
to look at the industry standards, because we don't want to be using affordable housing in a different way that others are using it that creates more.
We don't have any control over anyone else, though.
Right, but if the general consensus is affordable housing means not spending more than 30% of your income, well, realistically,
is the-
affordable housing could be $1 million home if they're not. But I've been trying to use low-income housing, but I think we need a better term for that, because that'll often, bring out NIMBY opposition. So I think we need to look at overall definitions, but how we want to communicate to get specific things like what you guys want.
Commissioner Poser.
One of the ways that we have talked about this in my day job is when we talk about affordable housing is to create a disclaimer. So when you send a recommendation to city council, down at the bottom, you put a disclaimer. Affordable housing means blah. And while I understand what you're saying about you don't want to run opposition to other agreed upon, some groups that talk about affordable housing are wrong. I mean, like, they have their own political opinions about what it is that we're calling it. So I just think it's really important that we're consistent about, if we say to city council, we want X, then we need to define it. I don't care if it's fine print, I don't care if it's an appendix, but I think it's really important that we define what it means to the group. And I'm gonna say it even further, anytime we're talking about people experiencing homelessness, we have to call them people that experience homelessness, and that has to be defined somewhere too. Like, we just have to agree to use the right words, because words on the page matter.
And I think it came up last month when we were talking about what's been built. And I asked the question about, like, well, what's, what, and then the answer was 0. But before that, it was like some excitement that we're building this and this and this and this and this. So, yes.
So does somebody have a specific request for something you would like added to this? Some specific language or specific request for something you would like added, or a specific definition? Because the definition, I think that, when you're talking about, typically affordable housing is defined as no more than 30% of your income spent on that, and that's different for each person then. So like, if you have a different definition than that, we need to define what that is.
Could we use the definition we used in the rubric? Since we're gonna present everything at the same time.
I don't even know what's in there anymore.
Sorry, where are the words affordable housing right now? Or are they here right now?
They're
Is
not
that-
in, they're not in objective 5.
No, yeah, oh,
So, which is
sorry,
what we're
that's what I was
talking
just
about right
checking.
now.
Okay.
Can we finish, okay, so can I table that for what can, well, maybe we figure that out. Is there anything else on objective 5 specifically? I'm gonna come bring us back.
All set.
You're good on 5? Okay. If we're good on 5, then let's look at the language, what we want. So where we're talking about affordable housing, I know is up under objective 1. 1 and 2. And those, objective 2 is defined by, the objectives are defined by the city council's ordinance. So who's responsible for defining affordable housing? Is it our responsibility or city council's responsibility for defining what affordable housing means for our work? That's a question I have then.
Well, and the ordinance talks about creating housing at all levels.
Okay.
I think when we talk about affordable housing, if you are talking specific 30%, then let's say that, because the ordinance does speak, to all levels with an emphasis on. So I think if we send them a memo and it says affordable housing, instead of that, we put specifically, we mean 60% or below, so that it's very well defined and there's no ambiguity, people know what we want. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Commissioner Lesh?
I actually, for the first time in my life, I'm excited about the vagary of affordable housing, because if it just says affordable housing, each time we're giving a recommendation or working on a project, we can put a lot of adjectives in there about what affordable housing. No, I'm serious, because I work with renters all the time, and so they need affordable rentals too, so like who's not building the thing, but who's rehabbing the thing, or like the renters are people too. So it's like we can put in the percentages and rental or ownership or whatever. We can call, because we're recommending.
Yes.
Okay. So we have the added definition of adding a little piece at the bottom that affordable housing is defined as no more than 30% of income, right? Or what were we talking about? Sorry, I was trying to type up.
I don't, scratch my can't. I don't care if we put 30% of income. Like I can get on Laura's.
Just
excited
leave it
about
out?
Adjectives. Yeah, fine.
Just call it affordable housing?
Yeah, and then we'll define it in other.
Okay. So we're to scratching that now?
In my opinion, I can promise that for at least the next 3 months that I'm on this, if we write a letter to council, I'll ask us to define what affordable housing means. How's that?
Okay. But we can define on a case-by-case basis based on what we're talking about. Done.
Our rubric that we created for guidance.
Okay. Anything else on the entire work plan? I'd like to get us moving forward on this.
Good job.
All right, motion to approve. Do I have a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Woo-hoo! We have an approved work plan. Took us a few meetings, but we got there. Okay. Workforce housing TID. Billy, this is you. I don't know what this is on the agenda.
I guess I thought this came from you. I don't know, it was put in
It
the
said action
folder.
required. I didn't,
Yeah, so this is a letter to send to council, asking them to support and advocate for Assembly Bill 706,
got it. Yes, I know, okay.
updating the TIF stuff. You
We
want it?
have a typo in President Berge's name. So it's an E-R-G, B-E-R-G.
Yeah, I don't know who.
I don't know who wrote this letter, so.
The agenda says TID. Is it TIF we're discussing?
Tax increment financing or tax increment district, they're kind of the same.
The terms are used interchangeably for different aspects, whether it's district or the financing.
And I
for
can
it.
see what the bill actually states and put it towards that.
We don't know the author, did you say?
How do we not?
I have no idea who
Somebody
wrote
slipped
this.
it into the packet from the public?
I don't know if Aaron might have wrote it up for something for you guys to consider. I don't know. Yeah, it was in there. Aaron's out of town, so, I don't know where, I know I didn't write it.
It's a good letter.
it's
It's a good one to support. I did
Yeah.
read it. I was like, oh, this is great. I don't know.
I think we talked about it too.
We did talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I wrote it post-surgery and,
I don't love that we have an agenda item that none of us know about that
can-
has a
we
letter
can-
attached.
yeah,
But that's
we
just me.
can,
I'm not-
we can
I'm not-
table it if you guys want to learn more, but, this may be time sensitive too.
It's sitting right now, I believe the last I heard, it's sitting, I don't think there's been any action on it yet. This, yeah, it's been sitting for a while. I will learn more probably about this on Friday in Green Bay when I go down to our state meeting, but,
It had
I
a
don't know if it's.
First
had it
reading
moved.
in the assembly on December 3rd of
But-
last year. And no
But it
movement
hasn't made it
since.
through the Senate, right? Yeah.
Is there a competing House bill? Because a lot of times they'll pass at the same time.
So this one has a challenge in the Senate because there's people in the Senate that are opposed to TIF and TID, and that's the big challenge to this. So it's getting it in front of the Senate that is part of the challenge. Right now, there's opposition to that. I don't know if, at this point, if there's a need for us to take action today on this, because until it actually gets a hearing at the Senate level, it's kind of dead in the water, right? Like, it needs to get to that point.
Yeah, and just to kind of clarify, anytime that there's potential for action, so if there's something that may be voted on that, we should list that on the agenda so the public knows that there will be a vote. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean there has to be. You guys can postpone stuff, or you can even vote no. If you think it might be something you want to do in the future, I'd postpone it. But action required doesn't mean you necessarily have to do something. It's just let the public know there could be a vote on this.
Okay. So, Councilmember Schoen?
I don't want to stifle conversation prematurely, but I was going to make a motion to postpone action on this until our next meeting in February on February 11th, I think.
Okay, so there's a motion. I need a second? We can continue discussion. Can somebody second that?
Second.
All right, any further discussion on that then? No? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one is tabled.
I have a different question.
Okay, what's your other question?
And maybe it comes in announcements, I don't know, but there are some housing bills that have a hearing next week.
So that would need to go down, because those are not noticed on the agenda, so they
So
would
they
need to
go
go
at
under,
the end? Okay.
under announcements. Yep.
And I'm sorry, who seconded that one? That'd be me. Thank you.
Okay. All right, the third item, or item D, the Housing Fund Community Outreach. So when is the work plan and the rubric then going to council? When will that be scheduled at council?
2 weeks. 2 weeks from yesterday.
So the
So their-
27th?
Yeah, their next meeting will take both of them.
So is that something then that, is staff just presents that?
Yes.
Or, okay. All right.
There will be a public hearing though the night before on the 26th, and commissioners would be welcome to come speak
If-
about either item.
If you're
on
going to
Monday.
speak as a commission, it has to be approved, but you are all welcome to come and speak individually. Sorry, I feel like I always have to.
Well, I was just say, the commission
that.
approved it, so it's gonna go through. The staff will tell them that commission approved it,
Yep.
but if anybody would like to go and then just say, hey, we spent a lot of time and effort into this, we'd really like you to approve this, you're welcome to do that individually, but not as commission.
Yep, unless you voted on the plan, you guys obviously approve it, so.
And if there's questions too, that's why we have a council member here, so she can bring our feedback and input in and answer questions as the commission representative as well. So, to council, that's her role.
I just have a question that's not gonna get us off track, I promise.
Okay.
The rubric, what I'm wondering about, like, we put a lot of time and effort into that. Is that worth, like, sharing with the other housing committees?
So that's the next so the reason I asked the question, because that leads us into D, because that's what the Affordable Housing Fund Community Outreach, that's what we need to talk about tonight, is starting to look at that community outreach. Once it's approved, right, what is our next steps and what is our timeline on that and what does that look like? So that's where that comes in. So I don't think we can do, like, once it's approved, then we can start looking out, or if there's other commissions that are relevant to it, because it'll be publicly noticed with the council agenda too, but we need to start talking about that. Now, Billy, you were saying that there's, like, the time frame on what we were thinking is gonna have to push back a little bit. When do we wanna be, because we talked about doing some community education sessions on this. When would be the right timing to be doing that, to be pre-prepping for RFPs?
I think we want to get some direction from council. That was part of the reason we took the timeframes off of the work plan.
Okay.
And it's not a topic, so I'll just briefly touch on it to answer this. We have a very, very good chance of a LIHTC application going in this year. Those don't go in, well, there's two programs. One can go in, it's more of a anytime type thing. The other one, it has to go in a specific time frame. We just heard about something just very, very recently. It's a private thing, so we just introduced some people. So we don't even know where it's going, but I can't imagine that it's not gonna happen, an application going in. But there is gonna be some tear down, some little bit of rebuild and stuff with it. So they may be looking for additional funding. So we want to get some direction on council on their thoughts on when they might want to do the RFP too. Do we wait and see what projects are being talked about through the year so that we have, I don't know if we want to put an RFP out without knowing that there's even people out there that are interested. We haven't had any pre-app meetings. We haven't had anybody coming to us about anything. If we get an application, at what degree do we have to fund it because we put the RFP out there? I think those are questions that we still need to explore a little, and talk about. You guys put specifically in there what is needed. I think we need to look at defining that so that it's based on current needs. Do we need new units? Do we need to focus on remodels? Do we need both? So I think we need to define that a little bit more too, for writing up the RFP.
All right, Commissioner Stokes?
I thought we were real purposeful that we didn't write the rubric to cater to a LIHTC project. So I would not want to put off other people getting funding to see if we may or may not have a LIHTC project. And I don't disagree that like a housing study in general would be great, but we have like $450,000. We're not going to fund. And I just came from a meeting where I had 52 people that need a single place to live. Like I think $450,000 is gonna get a little bit of something for a couple people. I think we need that out as soon as possible. Again, I mean, Laura, I appreciate you say this caveat every time, but this is where, like, I live every day, and we need housing in Eau Claire desperately. So I'd like to get it out as soon as possible.
And we'll get direction from council. 450 might create 1-2 new units as to where help and supplement a bigger project could create 30-40 units. So I think we need to think about that. And our new units or remodels. We need to remodel our existing stock, keep it affordable. But is that your guys' focus right now, or is adding new units so that people can get housed your focus? I think that needs to probably be fleshed out a little more.
It sounds like you just told us our focus was determined by council, though. So I'm not sure that's our answer.
In the rubric you put, and I don't remember the exact language, that based on current housing needs. And I've heard repeatedly that that's not that's not well known. I think we can make some assumptions on stuff and everything based on housing list and stuff, but you guys did put that specifically in the rubric to make sure we are focusing on what we do need and not just putting money out there.
Commissioner Poser?
So I've been around for a hot minute for the committee, and in the last reiteration of the affordable housing, we were pretty anti connecting this funding with LIHTC. I mean, that was pretty universal, that the way that WIDA does that program is the way they do that program. And we can't make any guarantees that a 40-plex unit or a 40-plex building is going to take the people that need to be taken, that are going to house the people that we need housed. That has been the problem with every project that we have funded thus far. So I would prefer that we get the direction of council that we're saying we need to get, and then get some meetings going in March, April, about the existence of funding and who's interested. And I realize that what we've normally done is target people and do that kind of stuff. But I also live and breathe RFPs where we just throw it out in the wind and see what happens, and then recruit based on people that we know, but also people that we don't know. Like throwing it out there into the regional hemisphere that says, we want housing in Eau Claire. Is anybody interested in doing that? Or rehabbing it, or putting it, not rehabbing it just for willy-nilly's sake, but rehabbing it so that it can be for people that previously couldn't live there. I'm just saying, we wait on it, we miss other opportunities later. That's my thought.
So I'm hearing a recommendation to start moving, once this is approved by council, and we get a little bit more info at the February meeting, to tentatively plan on moving forward with March and April community outreach on this, which could be finalized at the February meeting after further info from council. Commissioner Lash?
I think that was a great comment and summation, and it helped me be less confused, because I got confused for a moment there where, Billy, you were bringing up LIHTC projects that might come in. That part's not confusing. But then I was confused that we were talking about the only $450,000. And Carrie, you weren't there last month, but one of the things that I pushed back on that I think is still my truth is that if our values go out first, if anyone was going to talk about LIHTC, our values go out in front, where we are trying to attract people to what we define, not we, but like the city of Eau Claire define as, hey, we want success showing up in this LIHTC project. Do you know what I mean? Not like, is someone at home dreaming about how to work their butt off and not make a lot of money, but I don't know, be judged well. So I like what you're saying about let's get it out there, let's court, let's attract, and let's offer, and then someone might get dreamy. That feels good. Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that somebody who has a LIHTC project can't still apply if that's going to happen, but it's making sure that we're opening it up to all opportunities.
Right, and I think the time frame is important in making sure that it's opened up for all opportunities. That's.
But if all we're doing is holding informational sessions, even if it's the actual deadline, you know, the other piece to this is that it can take some time for people to put together a project like this. So if you're doing educational, informational sessions in March and April, we're talking about like summertime, late summertime deadlines, which should still, because it could take a few months, a quarter, 3 months to work on some of this stuff. So, so is everybody okay then with basically let's get this approved by council. Let's see if there's any direction from council when this goes through approval, coming back from on timeframes and stuff on this. And then at the next meeting, which I will not be at, so Commissioner Poser will be running the next meeting. We'll help you guys figure out a time frame in terms of when this actually needs to be get done. But the goal would be then March, April, springtime with some sort of community outreach and educational session on it. Mm-hmm. Is that everybody in agreement on that?
Yes.
Yeah, I have one question.
Okay. I'm going to go with Commissioner Lash first because she had her light on.
What I appreciate about what you're saying and what continues to delight me is that I know RFPs can be hard in the sense that like all of a sudden this thing shows up, and if it's a short time frame, you can't dream big. Like you can't fit the work in. But going from the ground up, and this is why I keep talking about kitchens or whatever, rehabbing kitchens, is that I would be so excited, and I know we can't direct this, but I just think it's a mentality of like someone going for this RFP to exponentially do the work that they already do. So they do little things that rehab houses and keep them going or get people in there. What if you can do that tenfold or something like that? So I like thinking about it that way, where you're not writing a whole new project. You're just exponentially growing what you already do. But we won't prescribe, but I would get excited.
All right, Commissioner Poser, your question?
I wanna walk through what this timeline is, just to address, like, so for Billy, for your concern. So if we're talking about these community sessions in March and April, and then are we talking about RFP like June 1st to the end of August?
So
And then decide in September?
we need to write the RFP before we start explaining it to the community. Well, I mean, there's a lot of layers it has to go through.
Right.
And I think you guys need to make a decision, because I think I have some confusion. I keep hearing that you want to get people housed, but there seems to be more of focus on rehab. And to me, that's not going to get people housed unless they're units that are not being housed now. I think it's absolutely important to take care of existing stock and stuff, but it's not going to create new units. So I think you guys need to define that a little.
So
better.
I will say that I think to kind of wrap up this conversation, move us forward since we're getting close to 7 o'clock.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of individual opinions here, but the rubric was written to encompass both options, and
Yep.
some people have personal preferences as to what that should be, but both options are welcome in the rubric, and I think we all agree on that, and that we can market it. If you know someone that has a project that might be a good fit, you can encourage them to apply, and we will go through the marketing process, and then we will see what we get and make decisions from there. At this
Yep.
point, there are no decisions made.
But keep in mind, there's also a point you guys put in there to focus on current needs, so.
Yeah, exactly, that's.
We
that's
have
piece of that,
we
yeah.
have to define that in the RFP, so.
And I agree with that, and I wouldn't have any problem defining what the current need of the city of Eau Claire is right now. Like, that wouldn't be a hard lift right now. Now, I'm gonna make a really big assumption here that in June, it's gonna be probably pretty similar, because the trend information tells us what we don't have is what we don't have, and it's only going to get worse. So, what I'm asking though, and I know you wanna get through it, and I do too, but like, if March and April is when we're out there talking about it, and June, if we just set a goal of June being when you release the RFP, that's 5 months from now. I'm sorry, but I think the RFP can be written in 5 months.
Well, and she just said the RFP has to be written before we do community outreach.
The whole thing has to be written?
So the community outreach is to inform people of what they're going to be applying for, what it is, what all the process. If we don't have the RFP ready, there's going to be a lot of missing information.
So that has to be
So why
first.
couldn't, let me ask you this, so because I also heard us talking about teaching the rubric because it's brand new. So what about doing it both? March, focusing on the rubric and what we're looking for and how we're gonna score, and, because that's all, if council approves it, that's done for us. At the same time, by April, we have the rubric done. Like, that would be marching this along.
Well, the rubric's already done.
Not the rubric, I meant the RFP, sorry.
So,
meant the RFP
but I
by
think,
April.
like if we were talking about March and April timeframe for that, I think that would be our same timeframe on getting the RFP done. So the RFP would get done.
Mm-hmm.
When we get that done, then we can hold educational informational sessions.
I don't think we should wait that long. I really don't about the
So-
rubric.
I want
The-
to point out that when we started this, because I came on the commission late and then nobody showed up for meetings, so we didn't have a quorum until August. We were gonna have December 1st, we were gonna have the money spent by the end of the year. It was no problem at that time to develop a rubric, get it approved by council, get an RFP written, do education, get the RFP out, take it in, and have someone ready to spend money by January 1st. That was like what our group was going to do. And I was like, yeah, great, we're gonna do something. And now we don't even have a rubric approved by council. So there was an ability to have this timeline when we started this work, and then it just like, somebody put the brakes on it, and we turned into snail's pace. So something, I'm missing something.
I think in 4 months, it would have been really hard to do the matrix, the RFP, educate, and give ample time for people to have their materials together. I think it was a very high expectation. And I
I'm not
agree.
disagreeing, but I didn't set
agree.
it.
There
Like, I
was,
was-
there was misinformation shared that it had to be spent. So there was a rush put on it that may not have been to your guys' benefit. It would have only been 4 months.
We're moving
You're-
into month 7.
You're probably going to want an RFP out there for 8 weeks. Is 8 weeks enough for you to come up with concept, all that? Is it enough for people who aren't educated in housing development? You know, some of our other organizations that may want to apply. So we want to make sure that they understand what they need to do. Last time, we had somebody submit stuff at the last minute. It wasn't complete, it wasn't done, and they were pretty mad that their application wasn't considered, but it was very clear in the RFP, if it's not complete, it won't be done. So they could have been helped by some information ahead of time and some information sessions. We want to make sure if people are applying, that they can be successful. We can't hold their hand through the whole process, but we need to make sure we're getting good applications, and I think we're getting off topic quite a bit, but good applications, good projects, and that people understand it so that smaller local developers may come in because they're the ones who are really going to solve this.
Commissioner Philipsak?
I agree, you said exactly what I was thinking. I think there is no point in rushing this, especially now. Let's do it right and get it out to as many people as the last one. The last one was not impressive with how the people that came in, and it wasn't, I don't think it was really that good, either project. It was hard to pick just one.
Commissioner Poser?
And I agree
I
with
think
you.
we'll
Oh.
find something better.
I agree with you. The piece that I think is important is teaching about the rubric first. I think that that is just as important as the RFP itself. How we're gonna score, how that's different, why we changed it. Who's going to explain that?
So wouldn't that all be in the same session though? So like people aren't gonna come to 2 educational sessions, they're gonna come to 1 to learn about the whole project and what they need to do. So that would be part of that session is what I could see, like that,
Yep.
yes, that's very important, but I think that that's just part of, you're gonna come and you're gonna learn about it and you're gonna learn about everything.
Yep. The rubric's part of the
Sure.
RFP. So to me, I agree. You want to have all the information available to make sure people understand.
So here's a question. Billy, when do you think we could have a draft RFP to review to start that process? Because that's kind of what I think that's kind of the next piece to this is then so council's going to approve it. They'll give a little bit of direction, but we need to see a draft RFP to work through, and then that's got to go to council as well. So what would you say is a reasonable time frame? Because obviously this is going to fall on you to come back to us with a draft RFP.
Depends on feedback from council. We have an RFP that we've done multiple times, so we're not going to be starting from scratch, but it will need some significant edits. I would hope council direction could potentially have us there next month, but it also depends on what's going on real time and what I get tasked with too. We have some stuff that had some very, and don't take this as I don't think this has a important deadline that it doesn't need to get out there, but we had some very time-sensitive stuff come up that multiple people got pulled in to work on. So that type of stuff can happen. My hope would be, depending on feedback, having a draft next month, but it really depends on the direction given and stuff.
All right, Councilmember Schoen.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I have a clear understanding of, so the next step, a lot of the things that we've talked about and worked on, so the rubric, the work plan, will go to council at council's next meetings
Yep.
in 2 weeks. At that same time, Billy, you'll seek direction from council, or will there be some type of proposed resolution with a timeline that council will consider related to
We'll
the RFP?
seek feedback. I don't know
Okay.
that we're going to create a resolution putting timeframes, because just like the yearly conference, sometimes things can be very difficult.
Yep.
They say it's got to be done by March, and we have something significant come up and a lot of people get pulled. It may not be doable, so I don't expect to see timelines in a resolution. We'll ask for your guys' feedback on different aspects of it and what council
But all three
thinks
of
are.
those, yeah, so all three though, the matrix, the work plan, and then that feedback will all happen
Yep.
in 2 weeks. Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
that's the plan, because we don't want to have to keep coming back council. That's why we kind of put it together, so we can come present it all to you guys at once, get the feedback and get going.
Will that be presented, that'll be presented on Tuesday though, not at the public hearing on Monday, correct? 'Cause you're not doing a public hearing on it, you just can do public comment. It would be presented on Tuesday night, correct? Am I right?
There won't be specific public comment, I don't believe, but there is open public comment
Yeah.
that anybody can come and speak to.
Okay. Just
on
wanted to make
stuff.
sure I
So there
know
would
when
be
the-
opportunities to speak, but there may not be a specific section on that.
Okay.
What's-
So what I just kind of to wrap a little bit that, so from what I'm hearing that with the timelines on stuff with the RFP is that I think if we said the goal would be to have a draft one by March, sounds like it might be doable with, if we can get it by February, that would be ideal, but if not, March is fine based on whatever the workload is for city staff to get that done. But our hope would be to see it by March so that we can start moving forward and get something out earlier in the year.
Yep. The next meeting would be the goal, but keep in mind, we got 2 weeks before we even talk to council,
Yep,
so.
correct.
We can start getting pieces of it ready and stuff, but
It'll probably be March, but just
yeah.
in case you had ended up with time and were able to pull it together, so. It's January 27th. And that would be a 4 o'clock meeting here. Tuesdays are at 4. The public hearing is on Monday. If you did want to speak on yourself individually, on behalf of yourself, that, the public meetings are at 6, right? Yeah,
Yep.
6 o'clock on Monday.
And we can't always determine how long meetings will go. We try. It's quite entertaining Tuesday as we try to figure it out. But like many of us who didn't win the turkey last night know, we may not always be able to predict that. Public comment is at the end, so we can try to give you guys a guideline. So you might sit here for 4 hours, you might not. So we can try to give you our feel of how long the meeting might be, so you don't have to sit here through the whole thing.
All right. Anything else on that before we move on to other business? Okay, moving on to staff updates under other business agenda items.
We don't have data this week. Megan's working on a lot of things. We had some system issues to work through. We are having some meetings with county and stuff to kind of help define some next steps. We want to make sure that we're not all working on the same things, that we're working on relevant data, and that we're doing what can help with the plan coming. Do you want to take a minute or two to talk about what you're working on, or do we want to go home? Okay, come on up.
So right now I've been looking at foreclosure sales and how often they occur. I only pulled data from the last 3 years, but I didn't know it takes a really long time for foreclosures of mortgages to actually go through. The process, 90 days, if they don't pay their mortgage, they have 90 days to pay it. And then after that, they can submit the motion. They have to include all parties, including like anyone who has invested in the house. Like I've seen like the United States of America. I've seen like Mayo Clinic, and it's just like it ranges widely. And those are also people who get part of the sale after it is actually sold, if it is. And then after they get served, which is every party has to, every defendant has to, you get 20 days to defend your answer to court. And then if you get a motion to for summary judgment, and the borrower, I just said that wrong, loses or wins, they have 12 months usually as a redemption period for the lender. Wait. No, sorry, the lender, if the lender wins, then they have a 12-month redemption period for the borrower to get the money or sell the house or somehow get a new loan. And then if that ends and they do give them the money, it gets dismissed. And a lot of these cases are actually dismissed from the last 3 years. So I'm thinking more I have to pull back farther. And the ones for 2025 have barely even been closed. So that's what I'm working on.
Thank you. Oh,
Many foreclosures in the last year. Did you see an uptick or?
I saw that there is more cases this year, I'm pretty sure, but there was more foreclosures in 2023, and that's when I started. But that's not like really significant, and we don't have enough data to like really conclude anything so far.
thank you.
And I'll add to that, one of the reasons we decided to look at it was to your question, starting to read stuff where there's some higher insecurities and stuff like that happening. We wanted to see if foreclosures were increasing. We want to be able to watch that. And some of the things everybody's talking about, how do we, the community step in before? If we have this data ahead of time that we could share with the community, are there resources that could step in and help these individuals stay in their home? So that's one of the reasons we decided to start pulling that. You know, we pull eviction data to look at those trends and to discuss some of that. And I have to give huge kudos to Megan. I've been just very fortunate with the interns I've had. For those of you who have been around, I've been very lucky. Megan has taught me so much about foreclosures. She doesn't just pull the data, put it together, and do an analysis based on data. She learns about the stuff so that we all understand it. So I think the information she shared tonight might be more important to the data because it helps us start looking at timeframes that we have to help people. And we may have just looked at the data before and not understood that. So huge kudos to Megan and the work she's doing.
Thank you.
Other than that, we don't have any staff updates that I can
Okay.
think of. The meeting last night, if you guys want to go out and watch it, they are on YouTube now. If you search Eau Claire Meetings, should take you to the meeting page with the YouTube link. There was a problem during the recording, so there's 2 recordings for January 13th. It's the one that's an hour and 39 minutes. That wasn't the whole housing part. It was about an hour, and it's the first hour in that video, so you don't have to try and scroll and find stuff. So I would recommend watching it. It was a great meeting. It felt good.
Are you talking about the city council meeting?
Yeah,
last
the
night?
work
Okay.
session on the council. There was many community partners, the county, Angie was there, health, Jessica, many, we lost part of our audience. There was a lot of people there talking about what they're working on, and it really feels like there's a good path forward to collaboration. And that was exciting for me. So. There's no new ones. We talked about Paragon, except for, the one that's very early, possible light tech. All we did is check some zoning to make sure what could happen. So they're talking now, fingers crossed, but we'll see.
Okay. So with that then, no other staff updates. Discussion directions, we'll have announcements in a minute. First thing on there is future agenda items. So February, we have housing program education. Do you have a specific one that we're looking at for February? Open to options?
Yep. I was gonna get with you because it's a little broad, and I don't think we could do all of them.
No, he's gotta pick one.
So we
Is
gotta
there
decide.
any, is there any recommendation or suggestion from the group as to what you would like to learn about first? Well, this was coming off your work plan where you were looking at like education on different housing programs that are available, so that everybody had the same knowledge and understanding of different available housing programs in the community. So,
I was gonna say, like, all the things that Jessica does.
Could be,
yeah,
could be.
could be, that could be one.
Could be the
So-
light-
Walk through all the different things that the city of housing.
So it talks about, yeah, so the different types of different nonprofit organizations, it could be different city or county run programs. I mean, that's pretty broad.
Yeah, it was what you guys wanted to learn more about.
I think the city stuff would be good. I think your TBRA program, I think Section 8, I think,
Are you available in February? We'll talk.
and having Nicole present.
I think I just did a presentation, a very short one last night to city council. I could use the same slides for you guys and guys and gals, sorry.
I wonder if they have Nicole and Jessica together, just because you have that lovely new word we have. And then also, like, there's always confusion about what's the county, what's the city, and the city, county's in the city, and I think you and Nicole could.
I will not speak for her, so you're welcome.
Yeah, let us
to
reach-
talk to her and find out.
Yeah, let us reach out and check schedules and everything, make sure it'll work for everybody, but we'll put that as number one. If it doesn't work, Christina and I can talk, or I can send something out that.
Our next meeting is February 11th.
I can't actually. I would-
Okay, so we need a different topic. So next month will be something else. We'll need a different topic.
We'll figure
Yeah.
that out, and we'll put you guys down for possibly March or.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'll be in Mexico that week, so. I
Oh,
will-
darn. You don't want to be with us?
I got my tickets already, sorry.
We do have a virtual option.
No. I have some boundaries.
Other items then, based on what we talked about tonight, that is on next month's agenda is going to be further discussion on that community outreach plan after everything gets approved by council, seeing what feedback came from council on the on the housing fund, and then further discussion on that and any TID. So we'll be revisiting, we tabled the workforce housing TID for more info, so that will come back up next time to get more info on where that's at and if that's something that might actually be getting through the Senate, or if maybe there's other housing bills that we should be encouraging the city to support that would be of relevance. So that's what I have for next time that we need to be working on, and potentially a draft RFP if that is available by then.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. In February, should we talk about how to talk about writing the RFP in March? You know what I mean?
Well,
Like-
so Billy will be creating a draft one, and then when
Okay.
she has that, then you guys will the commission will get to look at that and provide feedback and input.
In February, okay,
So-
okay.
Yeah, it has to go through purchasing, legal, all that stuff too, so February's gonna be a tight time frame, but we'll try.
Okay. So that looks good, that sounds good to everybody for future agenda items? Okay,
Come up with a project for next week, next month.
we'll figure it
We'll-
out.
We'll talk.
Yeah. And then any announcements before we adjourn?
I have a whole host.
Of course you do.
Okay, sorry.
Commissioner Poser.
Well, the first and foremost thing is, given that you want me to run the meeting, my organization's conference is February 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Oh, okay.
So I will be in Appleton. Now, I'm happy to run a meeting virtual from my hotel room, but it has to be virtual. Sorry, so.
I'll be at the same conference.
Okay.
It's your guys' call. I would count this as two within the appropriate time frame if that's the way we're going. But that's usually what determines it, if at least two members, the time frame Angie puts out request is.
Yep.
Well, I think we just had 2 requests for virtual, so,
We're good.
so February will be virtual. We'll make that decision
And I
right
think
now.
that then, given that nature, the smaller the agenda, probably the more
Better.
effective.
Yep,
Um,
which is good. We don't have a lot.
That's what I was waiting to push the button for. So that's my first thing. Second thing, so given that the conference, so this is my plug for the conference, which is open to anybody. So it's in Appleton, it's February 10th through the 12th. You register on the website for my organization. The block of rooms ends Friday. and the registration will close on February 2nd. And the thing I want to point out is that when we talk about homelessness, we talk about housing, we talk about the state of affairs at the federal level, at the state level, when we talk about all these things, most of the time that occurs in these siloed pockets, right? We talk about it from direct service providers, leaders talk about it, community partners talk about it, and we try to bring people together at local levels. But this conference's whole purpose and the whole mission of, or the whole like tagline is stronger together. So every speaker that's being brought in, national speakers that are being brought in, are talking about things that they're experts in to support the whole spectrum of service. So experts on encampments, experts on shared housing, experts on reintegration from corrections, a crisis negotiator from the Appleton PD, somebody from the National Homeless Law Center, former assembly members talking about what advocacy worked when he was in the assembly and what doesn't work, that kind of stuff, along with all the sessions. So my plug is, people are often well-hearted and want to talk about homelessness and housing and low income and all that stuff, but you need to go to conferences like this to better meet, like to network, to meet people, to learn what best practices are, to be part of that solution. So that's just my plug for the conference. That's number one. Number two, you mentioned, I'm sorry, number three. Thank you, Cody. Number three is the bills. So we got notice yesterday that on January 21st, so next Wednesday at 9 a.m., the Assembly's Committee on Housing and Real Estate will be hearing two of the housing bills. Assembly Bill 625, which is related to pay for performance, and Assembly Bill 631, which is related to the use of public lands to provide temporary residence for homeless and providing a penalty. Said in other language, Bill 625 is the pay for performance, sharing all personal data with whoever asks for it, for all the clients that are ever touched or served with state funds. And the second one is the rounding up of human beings and putting them in sanctioned encampments and forcing the cities and counties to pay for it. So those are real big, and they're at 9 a.m. on Wednesday in Madison. And there's gonna be language that comes out that is like sample words and written testimony that you can submit and things like that. And a whole host of my staff will be going. And so if that matters to you, or you're concerned about it, or the implication of what will happen if the state government tells the city that you have to carve up this piece of land and put fences and round people up, that might be my suggestion, that people speak up. So I'm just saying, that's next Wednesday.
There's a public hearing?
Those are public hearings on those two bills, along with the one that you referenced, which is 737, which is financing certain infrastructure by special charge approved by the Neighborhood Improvement District.
The NIDS.
That's the NID one, and it's being sponsored by Representative Armstrong from Rice Lake. So that's going to be a hot meeting, so like I'd carve out the day. I'm just saying. Okay, so now Cody, you lost me. Number 4, the point in time is January 28th and 29th, so we won't meet again before that happens. If you've never volunteered to do it, I highly recommend it as an outreach opportunity. I think I'm driving, is what I was told last night. And then last but not least, the state has released home ARP funds. So the state of Wisconsin released home ARP dollars, which are for rental assistance and supportive services, minimum of $50,000 grants for the grant year 26-27. There's a pot of about $4 million that they want to spend. The services have to be done outside of the city of Eau Claire. The agencies can be within the city of Eau Claire, but the services have to be, it's because the city of Eau Claire got its own home ARP money and they got to decide what to do with it. So the state covers everything outside of that. But those applications are due March 6th.
All right.
That's all I have.
Okay, any other announcements? All right, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. Thank you, guys.
I am sorry.
Technically, from when we actually started, we were done in right at 2 hours, so.